Is your tax money being used to pay for exorcisms? This isn't a hypothetical question. It's the bombshell revelation that has ignited a firestorm in Washington and has lawmakers demanding answers. Before we continue, if you want to stay on top of everything happening in U.S. politics, hit that subscribe button right now and leave a like. It really helps this channel grow. Senator John Kennedy, the sharp-tongued Republican from Louisiana, didn't hold back during a recent Senate hearing. He zeroed in on California's massive Medicaid program, Medi-Cal, which is already under intense scrutiny from the Trump administration due to widespread allegations of fraud. But Kennedy brought a new, astonishing detail to light: reports that Medi-Cal is covering exorcisms and other forms of faith-based healing. He pointed to a dramatic surge in California's healthcare spending, with Medi-Cal's budget more than doubling since 2019, projected to reach a staggering $22.2 billion by 2026. This eye-watering increase comes on the heels of Vice President J.D. Vance's anti-fraud task force suspending $14 billion in federal funding for California's home health and hospice programs after uncovering an estimated $600 million in suspected fraud within the state's Medicaid system. During his questioning of Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, Senator Kennedy presented these alarming reports, alleging that taxpayer dollars are funding not only exorcisms, a religious rite most commonly associated with the Catholic Church, but also other indigenous spiritual practices. The context is clear. Lawmakers in a state often considered a political outlier are demanding a thorough audit due to what they describe as the alarming nature of skyrocketing healthcare costs. Kennedy laid out the stark numbers. California's got 12% of the population in the last 10 years, he stated. They're responsible for half of these new so-called health providers to provide exorcisms and other things. Now, what the hell are we doing about it? Why has this gone on for so long? These extraordinary claims were first reported by the Wall Street Journal. Digging deeper, we find that in 2024, Medi-Cal actually expanded its coverage to include recipients seeking traditional healers and natural helpers within tribal communities. According to a press release from Governor Gavin Newsom's office, these taxpayer-funded services can include music therapy and spiritual interventions such as ceremonies, rituals, and herbal remedies. To qualify as a traditional healer, an individual must have served as a spiritual leader within an American Indian tribe for at least 2 years and be contracted by an Indian healthcare provider. The criteria for a natural helper are less strict, allowing for any individual deemed a trusted member of an American Indian tribe to provide these services. Governor Newsom has defended this expansion, framing it as a crucial step in helping heal the historical wounds inflicted on tribes. He stated that, like many of the issues that plague successive generations of Native people, those inequities can be traced back to the historical atrocities the U.S. inflicted on tribes across the country. His administration views supporting access to traditional medicine as taking another step toward a healthier, brighter future. However, the financial specifics remain murky. It's unclear precisely how much Medi-Cal has spent on these particular services. When Fox News Digital reached out for comment, the California Department of Health and Human Services did not respond by the time of publication. So what does this all mean? At its core, this situation highlights a profound tension between the evolving landscape of healthcare and the fundamental principles of public spending. On one hand, there's a growing recognition of the importance of culturally sensitive care and addressing historical inequities, particularly for indigenous communities. Governor Newsom's initiative to provide access to traditional healing practices speaks to this desire for holistic and culturally appropriate healthcare solutions. The idea is to acknowledge the spiritual and cultural dimensions of well-being, which have often been marginalized in Western medical approaches. On the other hand, there's the undeniable reality of fiscal responsibility and the potential for abuse when large sums of taxpayer money are involved. Senator Kennedy's outrage is a reflection of a broader concern among many Americans. Are their taxes being used for essential services, or are they funding practices that many might find questionable or even inappropriate? The sheer scale of Medi-Cal's budget increase, coupled with the ongoing fraud investigations, amplifies these concerns. When billions are at stake and suspicions of fraud are high, any expenditure that appears unusual or extravagant will inevitably face intense scrutiny. The implications are far-reaching. For taxpayers, it raises questions about oversight and accountability in government spending. For healthcare providers, it prompts a debate about what constitutes legitimate medical or therapeutic service and who gets to define it. For the communities that these services are intended to benefit, there's a delicate balance between preserving cultural traditions and ensuring that these traditions are not exploited or misused. The potential outcomes are varied. This controversy could lead to stricter regulations and oversight for Medi-Cal expenditures, potentially cutting off funding for services deemed non-essential or open to abuse. It could also spark a wider national conversation about the role of traditional and spiritual healing in modern healthcare and whether public funds should support such practices. Furthermore, it could intensify the focus on fraud within Medicaid programs across the country, leading to more aggressive enforcement actions. So what do you think about this? Should taxpayer dollars be used to fund exorcisms and other spiritual healing practices? Drop your opinion in the comments below. I read every single one. This is a complex issue with no easy answers, but one thing is certain. The spotlight on how our tax dollars are spent has never been brighter, and the demand for transparency and accountability will only continue to grow. We'll be watching this story closely.